So things aren't looking good for Antonio Conte right now. It seems as though the Chelsea boss is sick of his life at Stamford Bridge, longing to be given a payoff and sacked, rather than walking away from the club and resigning. Chelsea's title defence has been non-existent this season, with the Blues now in a battle just to secure Champions League football. Conte has been outspoken with the press, wanting the board to publicly back him, whilst criticising their transfer policy and being less than enthusiastic about their new arrival since lifting the Premier League title. It seems to be a case of when rather than if for Antonio Conte leaving Chelsea, and he'll join a long list of managers who haven't spent long on the Stamford Bridge dugout. Let's take a look at Chelsea's past 10 managers, looking at where they were before and where they ended up after. We start in 2004 with Jose Mourinho. The special one was the man who really kicked off this new era at Chelsea, replacing Claudio Ranieri as Roman Abramovich began to build a trophy-winning juggernaut that only could stop itself. Before arriving in London, Jose Mourinho was with Porto, where he gained his self-titled reputation as the special one, winning 2 league titles, a domestic cup, a UEFA Cup and finally a Champions League, so it's clear to see why he rocked up with such arrogance at Chelsea. Of course, Mourinho delivered a League Cup and 2 league titles during his first stint in charge, eventually receiving the sack in September 2007 after a series of disagreements with the owner. His next gig would be Inter Milan, where Mourinho would win a famous treble, making Italy the 3rd country he conquered. It was Avram Grant who replaced Jose Mourinho, a personal friend of Roman Abramovich's, who became Chelsea's director of football in the summer of 2007. Before getting the job at Chelsea, Grant's last management job was overseeing the Israeli national team, where he was highly rated but failed to reach a major tournament, but he came pretty close, which is pretty impressive for Israel. Grant would leave Chelsea at the end of the 07-08 season and took over at Portsmouth a year or so later, where he guided the club to the FA Cup final despite financial oblivion, ending the season with relegation after a points deduction after going into administration, so it wasn't really his fault. Next in charge at Chelsea was Big Phil Scolari. A World Cup winner in charge of Brazil, and almost a European Championship winner with Portugal, Scolari was the man Chelsea wanted in 2008, who left his post as Portugal manager, having almost delivered them their first major honour, something they would have to wait until 2016 to do. Scolari would become the first World Cup winning manager to take charge of a Premier League team, but it meant nothing as Big Phil was a total bust in England. By February 2009, Scolari was sacked and went back to working as a bus driver, as that's definitely what he looks like. His next job came that summer at Bunyodkor, where he became the highest paid manager in world football. Clearly Uzbekistan was the place to be in 2009. When Scolari was sacked, Roman Abramovich's best mate Gus Hiddink took temporary charge at Stamford Bridge, the first of 2 interim spells at the club. Before he headed to England, Hiddink was managing the Russian national team, taking them to the semi-finals of Euro 2008. His time at Chelsea was brief, just keeping the dugout warm until the summer, and Hiddink would return to the international fold in 2010, managing Turkey, where he was unable to qualify for Euro 2012 and subsequently resigned, waiting for his next chance at the Chelsea job. After Hiddink's interim spell, Carlo Ancelotti was the next man to be Chelsea manager, where the Blues would return to their successful selves, having just won an FA Cup since Mourinho left. Ancelotti had spent almost 8 years at AC Milan prior to joining Chelsea, winning 2 league titles, an Italian Cup, 2 Champions Leagues, 2 UEFA Super Cups and a Club World Cup. Ancelotti would have similar success in his first season at Chelsea, winning a domestic double with the Premier League title and FA Cup. His second season would see no silverware at the club as they finished second, which apparently meant that Ancelotti had to go, losing his job just 2 hours after the season ended and receiving a lovely £6 million payoff. The Italian's next job would be PSG, where he won 1 league title during a season and a half there before jumping ship to Real Madrid. Next in the hot seat was mini Jose Mourinho, Andre Villas-Boas. They'd struck gold with the young up-and-coming manager from Portugal last time, so why not again? Just like Mourinho, AVB had success at Porto before joining Chelsea, winning a league title, domestic cup and the Europa League in what was his only season in charge. Chelsea immediately snapped him up in 2011, but would have no such success with AVB, who was struggling to even keep Chelsea in the top 4, and got the sack in March 2012. His next job would also be in London, taking over at White Hart Lane. Villas-Boas came 5th in his only full season at Tottenham and was sacked midway through his second term after failing to spend the Gareth Bale money wisely. Nowadays he drives rally cars. Couldn't make it up. After AVB got the sack, Di Matteo would step up from his assistant role and took permanent charge in what was only his 3rd job as a manager. Before this, Di Matteo managed West Brom, where his crowning achievement was winning promotion to the Premier League. At Chelsea though, Di Matteo would achieve something he'll never likely eclipse, winning the Champions League with basically half a squad, much to the delight of Roman Abramovich, who had wanted the trophy ever since buying the club. Add to that an FA Cup victory and everything was rosy for Di Matteo, until he lost his job the next season in November 2012. The Italian's next job would be Schalke in Germany, and we last saw RDM managing Aston Villa in the Championship, getting the sack just months after taking over last season. After Di Matteo, Rafa Benitez was handed the job until the end of the season, much to the anger of Chelsea fans who didn't want to see the ex-Liverpool man in the dugout. Before his controversial move to Chelsea, Benitez had been in Italy with Inter Milan, but only lasted half a season at the San Siro, losing his job just before Christmas of 2010. After nearly 2 years out of the game, Benitez came to Chelsea and actually did okay, finishing the season in third and winning the Europa League, but he would of course leave at the end of the season, going on to manage Napoli, spending 2 years in Naples before his disaster at Real Madrid. In the summer of 2013, the special one returned, and Jose Mourinho was back for his second spell with Chelsea. He had continued to enhance his reputation first at Inter Milan and then at Real Madrid, where he won a La Liga title and a Copa del Rey, as well as finding a new foe in Pep Guardiola. Now back at Chelsea, Mourinho would come close to the title in his first season back, costing Liverpool the title in the process, but in his second season, Chelsea would win the League Cup and coast towards the Premier League. However, a dismal attempt to retain the title saw Chelsea lose 9 of their first 16 league games, and Mourinho was out the door again, showing just how unsentimental Roman Abramovich is. As we all know, Mourinho is now at Manchester United and as grumpy as ever, winning the Europa League and League Cup in his first season. Gus Hiddink took temporary charge of Chelsea once again after Mourinho's sacking, tasked with picking up the pieces of a shattered dressing room, one that had won a Premier League title just months before. Before returning to Chelsea, Hiddink had a dismal spell as Netherlands boss, being replaced during their appalling Euro 2016 qualifying campaign. Back at Stamford Bridge though, he lifted Chelsea from 16th to 10th and left at the end of the season, and he hasn't managed since, now aged 71 and waiting for the call from Roman Abramovich. So will Antonio Conte be next to get the sack? And if so, where will he go, and who will replace him at Chelsea? So that's Chelsea's past 10 managers. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below on Antonio Conte's future. Thanks for watching and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.